34.
Correct, yes. Up through 33 we went. But it's worth maybe picking up from 31 and going. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected. By the way, this was right after do you remember what happened right before this? You can peek.
He heals the blind man at Bethsaida and asks, who do people say I am?
Right. And then it was Peter's big moment. Peter's awesome, by the way. Peter gives me so much hope. So he's the one who says, you're the Christ. He gets it. And we'll read a little bit more today and you'll say, oh, he doesn't get it. Oh, no, he doesn't get it. So I do feel encouraged by him. Anyway, so right after this confession, we read now and read last week, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he said this plainly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, get behind me, Satan, for you're not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. So I love how Mark makes the point, makes it clear that this was a very clear thing that Jesus just told them. This is not a parable. This is not seeing but not seeing and hearing but not hearing. This is supposed to be very clear. And he's describing what the Messiah's job is, what the Christ is supposed to be doing. Because Peter just confessed, you are the Christ, right? The Son. Oh, he didn't say that in this one. You are the Christ. And so Jesus says, oh, good, there's my opening. Let's talk about what's going to happen. And he includes, he's going to be rejected, he's going to suffer, and he's going to be killed. And then on the third day, he'll be raised. And Peter has a little trouble with this idea. Why do you suppose that is?
Peter had a different idea about how it was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, when he said, you're the Christ, didn't he think, you're the one who's going to save us now?
Mm-hmm.
Not like this.
Right. And it's very simple for us to do, and we'll see it more in the next chapter. This all kind of works together, which is another reason why I didn't mind not finishing that last paragraph. But it is quite natural for us, even if it's wrong, to forget that what we can't see is much more important than what we can. That our life is such a little spot historically, just a drop in the bucket. And the significance of what God is doing in the world is much greater than our little lifespans. When I try to do a family tree, I never met Mom's grandparents. That's not very far from me. And I don't know much about them. Only what Mom remembers and as a kid. And even then, moved away. And so we're just, we live this long. And I think that is at least some part of what was behind his saying, get behind me, Satan, for you're not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. We do this all the time. We think we've got it. What we see is it. And calling the crowd to him with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. So notice a couple of things. Right after, so we have the confession. We have Jesus telling them what to expect. And it didn't sound as if he was just teaching. He was just letting them know. And Peter clearly hadn't understood that's what this Messiah thing meant. And instead, he called, like, what arrogance. I love it. It's the kind of thing I would do. Psst, Jesus, come here a minute. Stop with this stuff. It's not good. He gives Jesus advice about how to handle his people. And Jesus says, you don't have in mind the things of God, but the things of man. Immediately after, notice what that was just to the disciples, right? Notice what he does now, and calling the crowd to him. We have at different times noted that Mark, we're not quite sure if it's everybody or just the disciples. Mark wants it to be clear. This is everybody. Calling the crowd. He said to them, if anyone would come after him, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it. So this isn't a special instruction for the 12. It's for the bigger crowd. This is what it means. Now, a little historical background. Crucifixion was a horrible way of dying. It was basically forced suffocation because you couldn't lift yourself up to get a breath in. So you just were hanging and you couldn't get any air in. It was slow and painful and torturous. Also, it wasn't supposed to be done except to the worst of criminals. And yet, I wonder, I don't know the answer. I wonder what would they think what did they think when they heard, take up your cross? We, in hindsight, know the whole bit about that, about, Simon picking it up and taking it. No. Joseph carried it. Simon's a burial place, or the other way around. Anyway, we know what that means.
Well, we know what it meant for Jesus to do it, but if he's talking to us, what does it mean to us?
I'm saying, what did it mean to the disciples then?
Yeah.
Because they, first off, even mentioning not how he was going to die, that would be another level of horror to Peter.
Right.
But that he would die was so offensive to Peter. And here he mentions this, and he doesn't even say die by the cross, except he does say, take up his cross. Because if you save your life, you'll lose it. If you lose your life, you'll save it. So I don't know what they would have thought. But we're not there. We're here.
I know, but I don't know what it means to me.
Okay.
Well, maybe it means face your demons and your troubles and keep trying and believing.
So, but what about
Take up
this?
your cross and carry it.
How about we go from the end of the sentence and then try to fit in the cross bit? How's that?
Okay.
Whoever would save his life will lose it.
Would lose it, yeah.
But whoever would lose it, who's willing to lose his life, will save it. For my sake, there's a caveat. So it isn't just random, okay, I'll, do a tightrope walk between the World Trade buildings. I mean, when I was a kid, that was remember, somebody did that, right? Set it up, it was a big to-do in the city. But that's taking your life in your hands in a bit of a different way than Jesus means here. So we have a paradox. Losing your life is saving your life. Is that allowed? He was just speaking plainly. What happened?
I don't really understand that portion of it.
So much is paradoxical. So much that is true is paradoxical. Thinking through a bunch of different things, but right here he's saying, so give me an example of saving. What could he mean by trying to save your life as opposed to losing it for him? And feel free to use context. I mean, it's a safe bet if you go back to see what Peter did and said, and Jesus' response, "Get behind me, Satan," that might help. This is bothering me because
There's no Jeanette.
well, it's also blocking Mary's face from me, so.
I should have sat over there.
No, you're fine. I just could have adjusted that. So let's say Peter had his way. What was he envisioning? What would he have liked to see happen? You've kind of said it. I'm making you repeat it.
Are you talking to me?
Well, anybody, but
that
you are the one who
Jesus
said
was
it.
coming as
Yeah.
the king of Israel.
Yes,
and he
there we
was gonna
go.
Overthrow all the oppressive forces around, specifically Rome, I guess. And,
Yeah.
the Jews were going to be free. He's going to free
Yeah.
Israel.
And they could do, yes, restore them. And Jesus doesn't deny that's going to happen. It's just not the way and in the order and in that Peter clearly envisioned. So in his case, his not being willing to, Bubba's paw is up like that again because it doesn't quite hit the floor. Cracks me up when he does that. Sorry, I interrupted myself. If he were to lose his life, well, he didn't have in mind the things of God. Things of God are saying, we're going to go through this. This is going to happen. It's not as if, it's very matter of fact. He spoke very plainly to them because this is the plan. And yet, it hurt. It was a tough plan, but it didn't cause him to doubt that or to skip ahead to the restoration or the good part. So if in Peter's case, his not being willing, him wanting to save his life, it's a little, maybe that's, I'm stretching it, because in his mind, he sort of was trying to save his life. Because if that picture of Jesus came true, where he took over, then life on this earth would have been so much better for Peter. And that's what he wants and hopes for, and it isn't what Jesus had in mind. And then the flip side, but if you lose your life, for my sake, you'll save it.
So is he talking about eternal life?
Yeah. I think what we've done here is gone all the way across from who is this, Mark has from the beginning. In fact, the next scene is the transfiguration. Elijah comes back. He starts with Elijah. Elijah's the one who's going to announce the Messiah. And again, what they thought of that was not necessarily in our Bible, but was a very positive thing. He's going to take over. Things will be restored. And Elijah will be the beginning of the end, and it's a glorious end. So here they've gone from Mark using Elijah to introduce Jesus' ministry as the real thing. This is the one foretold. And we've seen example after example where Jesus is working on two levels. And he's primarily concerned with the spiritual realm. driving demons out, having people hear the gospel. Not so much the earthly side, but he has compassion, so he does care about that. But here we have now gone all the way to him saying, there's another life after this. It isn't just losing, it's losing in order to gain. That takes some trust. That's like saying if you jump off, that's a great scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he has to take a step and trust that the bridge is going to be there, because that's what the riddles seem to say. If he didn't do that, I mean, if he had been wrong, he would have plunged to his death. So, we have all sorts of analogies. What's it called? A step of faith, right? Or leap of faith. But here he's saying, you hold on to this life. You're holding on to a whole bunch of things. I think that's why he throws in, if you're ashamed of me and my words and this adulterous and sinful generation. Saying this is not worth holding on to. So it's, they need you, huh? Is that?
No, it's just junk.
What are you discovering, Penelope?
I was just trying, nothing.
It's
I was just
all,
trying to think
all
of.
political. I don't know how I started getting all these political.
That's because early voting is going
You
on.
made me think of something I can't remember.
Today's the last day for early voting. Yeah.
So how about this? Hold the paradox for now, because we're going to see more of, Jesus is kind of pushing at that seam a lot. But I think it has to do with, at least in my brain, and it may be different for you, but it is so connected to his response to Peter, that to understand the Messiah means you have in mind the things of God. If you misunderstand and you have in mind the things of man, then you hold on to things in this adulterous and sinful. And I think his wording is so strong because that's not worth holding on to. It's gross. He's like saying, you want to hold on to this ratty old thing when I have, something beautiful, wonderful, silks and chocolates, and you're in the mud. So it's unwise, but practically speaking, I think it's a daily struggle. Something we need daily to work towards, that we don't invest in things of the world beyond the necessary things we need to do. Don't hope for salvation through them. Don't hope for, you're never going to, well, the quote that this is 36. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? We're kind of going for the whole world, right? I think Donald Trump is going for the whole world.
I think so too.
But it would be at the forfeiture of his soul. In the end, everything will burn. All the gold will melt. In the end, it does not last. And he said, what does it gain you? Temporary praise, but guess what? This is an adulterous and sinful generation. And being ashamed of him means you are in looking at the things of the world instead, or the things of man, as he rebuked Peter in saying. Am I making sense? That I keep linking those two, but that's the best way for my brain to understand it. Use these categories, that what you're supposed to do is be willing to do whatever God asks you to do, because ultimately this doesn't matter. This is your time, you have a job to do, and you hold on to your earthly existence loosely, but you hold on to God and the things of God tightly. I'm not going to, so the end of, if you can see in your Bibles, they link up the first verse of chapter 9 with what came before. I don't know what to do with that. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God after it has come with power. Maybe that's Pentecost. Maybe that's, I don't know what that means. Nor did I put any effort into researching it, and that's on me. But then we get to, again, I see Peter as our connecting point for this whole little section. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And there he appeared to them, and there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. Now, this is not a typical hike in the mountains. Peter said to Jesus, and again, my buddy Peter, Rabbi, it's good that we're here. Let's make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For he didn't know what to say, for they were terrified. And a cloud overshadowed them. Ooh, from our Exodus discussion, you know that's the presence of God, right? That this is, we have God is right here. And, sorry, I was looking at the next, I try to do this without glasses, and it's not smart. And he heard again this voice. Where do we hear the voice? This is my beloved son. Beginning of the ministry. It, that was sending him off to do his work. You hear it again. This is my beloved son, listen to him. And suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them, but Jesus only. All right, that's a befuddling passage, eh? What questions does it provoke in you? What of this do you not understand or think is a bit weird?
About seeing dead people?
For example, right? That they're there and they're talking to each other. That's a bit weird. What do you think? I love Peter's response. Hey, this is really good. We're going to build a tent.
Good we're here, yeah.
It's great. Well, we got this one. You are so lucky to have us, Jesus. He's just, there's a fearlessness to him that I love. And, in the end, he is crucified. And tradition has it, he was crucified upside down because it couldn't be as easy as it was it had to be worse. He became a very different person when the Holy Spirit came at Pentecost. He wasn't afraid. Anyway, sorry, Penelope, you're about to. Anybody have any questions? Like, as clear as mud?
Well, I mean, there's nothing about it that is...
How about this? Why Moses and Elijah? Did you wonder that?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. You're just keeping it to yourself here. Huh?
Yeah.
Why? Why Moses? What is Moses? What do you know Moses for? I mean, what's he known for? Yeah, he took him out of, right? And that Exodus is a huge theme throughout the entire Bible, saving you from slavery and bringing you to the promised land. Sounds a lot like lose your life so that you can gain your life. Lose your life as a slave in Egypt so you can gain it in the promised land. What else is he associated with? Think, was it Charlton Heston? Yes, the tablets, the commandments. He's the law. So he's there. So Jesus is not setting aside the things of the law, but remember, he understands them to be a bit more inclusive than our checklist friends, the Pharisees. So somehow that's the beginning. He's seeing him as the old way of doing things. What about Elijah? We've already kind of broached this, but
Elijah's kind of the bridge from the old to the new, the voice in the wilderness.
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
He foretold of it,
Yep.
of what was coming.
Yeah, and we were told he's going to come. And again, I just learned today, I didn't know this, that Plato, in one of his dialogues, makes reference to Elijah coming. And this is before Jesus came. This is prior to the Messiah. He was just talking about if and when there's a Messiah, well, we've got Elijah coming too. Like he just referenced it. But it was always positive. It was in the restoration thing. So, think again of Peter's horror at this idea of being killed and suffering. That may not have been what they heard in Sunday school. Things get lost in translation, and they may have had a rosier picture of what Elijah's role is. But it's confirmed because he's one of the people who shows up. Elijah's quite a character, by the way. That would be a fun study sometime, just to kind of pull out the chapters with Elijah and read those. And then, so then they look around and it's just Jesus. Verse 9 is, as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead might mean. Now, reactions to that? Has Jesus ever mentioned rising from the dead? Just in my Bible, it's just on the other column, right there next to it.
Yeah,
He said that. He told them
yeah.
after 3 days,
Rise again.
he'll rise again. And here they're going, what is this thing about rising from the dead? These are hard things. This is paradigm blasting. They don't have a category for this. So even though Elijah raised, did Elijah or was it Elisha? Raised a kid who had died. Anyway, and then you have, they need to know what's going on with this transfiguration thing. So verse 11, they asked him, why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? And he said to them, Elijah does come first to restore all things. And how is it written of the Son of Man that he should suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him. Now, if you were confused before, you should be really confused now. So they say, well, could you explain this thing about Elijah? We kind of thought it was one thing. And Jesus answers with the very thing they thought. Yes, you're right. He does come first to restore all things. So they're like, okay, but you just told me this thing about dying and rising, and that doesn't sound much like restoration. And then he says, well, Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased. I don't know the answer to this. I think the most likely connection is John the Baptist in this case. But there's a lot here that this will be on my...
So he's talking about John being beheaded?
It's possible, yes. Because that was recent.
Because what happened to Elijah? What did they do to Elijah? Who are they? We're talking about they.
Well, Elijah, and you mean Old Testament Elijah?
Well, yeah.
He didn't even die. He
he
was the one who went across the river. He parted the river.
Yeah.
Another
Right.
miraculous miraculous crossing. And then Elijah comes back with his cloak, and the power is now of this like prophetic aura is on Elisha, his disciple. So it's not as if he died, but he does foreshadow this taking you into the new world. He goes across the river too. And just as they were taken from the death of Egypt, their life as slaves, into the promised land eventually, even though it wasn't the slaves who made it there, but the promise through the generations, they did get there. So Elijah is taken from this world to the next via a miracle, the river opening up for him. But I also think that because of the book of Mark, because I try to read things, contextually, this is confusing. I think it means more than John the Baptist, but I think it has to have some nod to John the Baptist
that they did
because of this
whatever
book. Yeah, they killed him. Yeah, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
He came, he was preparing.
So, all right, out of the book of Mark, but Elijah took them across the river.
No, he just went by himself.
Oh, but when we're talking about restoration, did Israel ever have a time where they were in milk and honey and in control of their?
No. Yes and no.
Okay.
Because they were not supposed to leave any of. Oh boy, this is a thorny issue. Okay.
Well, I'm just wondering what the restoration part is.
Of the Old Testament, Elijah.
Of the restoration for the Jews.
Well, this is. Well, I think it has to do. I don't know it, because if it's not another world, they may do with what they had. And there were lots of routines of restoration. For example, I think I mentioned this last week, that the 12, tribes, 11, Levites didn't get their own area, but the others did. And every 7 or 49 years, it would revert back to the family. So it could never get out of control, so one tribe couldn't take over all the others. It would be on a regular basis, they'd be restored to their land. They have symbols of this. They have this sense of it. From the beginning, God gave us the 6 days of work for the 7th day of rest. And it's the pinnacle of creation, is that 7th day.
Well, there was never an established state of Israel at all, so until Truman.
No.
So was it just called Israel
There was Israel under the kings,
under the king?
most notably David.
Why did it have to be formed all over again?
That's modern history question, and beyond our scope and
Okay,
beyond me. So,
Beyond me too.
but I think everything has always pointed to heaven, to something else.
Okay.
C.S. Lewis said, if we imagine something else, how could we imagine it if we didn't somehow know it existed? That there would have to be something. A fish doesn't know it's wet. If you feel wet, then you have some external knowledge of your world that's beyond it. I know a fish is wet because I don't live in the water. I live somewhere else. So these are difficult concepts, but I would say woven into everything has always been, this is not all there is. There is something else, and we were made for that. And even they're traveling at the very beginning of becoming the people of Israel upon after the Exodus. They were pilgrims. They started as pilgrims. Abraham, go. I'll tell you where to go, but get up and start going. And we are to live as pilgrims as well. So this it fits all together with the hope of restoration, which I think is an ultimate restoration. And pointing to Elijah is, it's confusing, but all I do know is he went across, and that was a happy ending for him. He was done. And
That's a good good one, Karen, that living as pilgrims, and they were pilgrims, and they were always being promised something more that hadn't been achieved yet, and that sort of losing your life, and those who lose their lives will gain it. I mean, that's kind of the living as pilgrim concept make a little more sense to me then, because we're wandering with whatever snippet of
You know what's even, to make it stronger?
yeah.
We're not just wandering or pilgrims in a friendly, we're in a sinful and adulterous.
Right.
We are in occupied territory. Think of
Yeah,
that.
That's pretty easy for me to contextualize now, that where we still live. And,
Yeah. This has been the loudest day. Could we shush your phone? Do you know how to do
I
that?
thought that was Jeanette, that's why my phone was on.
Oh, that's fine.
That was- And
Stop
and
this
I
thing.
told her
Turn
not
this-
to join
turn
anything,
this off.
but she doesn't listen to me.
You told me not to what?
To join anything.
Just a little-
Scrolling.
I'm going to give you a little nugget.
I know, well, that's why they're beeping you, because you belong to them.
I don't.
You know how
I'm trying.
when Jews refer to the Torah, what are they thinking?
The 5 books. that's
5
the
books.
word,
And Christians use the Latin term, actually it's Greek term. It's the Greek term, it's from how it was written in the Greek Old Testament. The Pentateuch, 5 books. Those are the holy books. You know what's I found really, and this is a nerdy thing, but I loved it. It fed me, like theologically, it made so much sense. Where do the 5 books end? They haven't reached the promised land.
Okay.
We've heard they just the second book they've left Egypt, and they're wandering, and there's some laws, and this is how you're going to live, and this is remembering when you get there. All of Deuteronomy I love Deuteronomy. It's like a sermon, and he's giving you the reasons for all that had happened. But he's saying, when you go there, don't forget, be careful. Things are going to be great. You're going to forget me. And they don't get to the promised land. They're not there yet. That starts in Joshua. And I find that significant because it's as if our lives are lived in this not there yet. We're not there yet. The actual taking of it comes later. There's a sense of a closed, the book is complete, the first 5 books, even though it's not complete in the way our little brains would expect it to be. And that, I think, is a good picture too. We are always waiting for something more. We're always dissatisfied. And a lot of it's a really good dissatisfaction. I think the fact that death offends us is a good thing. I don't think because in heaven, we're not dead. We're alive. Death is a this world problem.
Right.
But when we live eternally, we're alive eternally. And so I think that there are things on earth that should bother us that are not the way it's supposed to be. I think that's part of why Jesus said, not only are you trying to save your life, but you're doing it in a horrible place with horrible things. It isn't worth it. And even if you got the whole world, that means the good and the bad, it's not worth it. And I guarantee you most people don't think that. No, I'm not sure about most. Well, probably. At least functionally. We are functional. We act as if there isn't.
Anything else besides?
Yeah. And we invest so much in this. And I'm preaching to me in this too. The concerns of, okay, what am I going to do for work? And I'm learning to just say, well, Lord, show me what I'm going to do for work. And not figure out, it's not on me to, orchestrate my entire life. I need to do more listening and asking. Because ultimately this doesn't matter. Now, it kind of does when you have a bill to pay. And it kind of does when you need to eat food. But
And God provides everything, and it all belongs to Him. So
Yep.
there is an element of just leaning harder into faith,
Yeah.
into that. I mean, it becomes very practical for me when I'm trying to control something and I'm getting pushback and creating negative energy around me by doing it, and it isn't my business in the first place. You know, I should have been saying, God, I give this to you. This is something that is bothering me that I wish would be handled, that, you know, please help me to let go of it. So.
I also, I would connect at this point, Jesus saying, you know, take up your cross and follow me, for whoever would lose his life will save it, and whoever would save his life will lose it. I think the cross, this burden, which has huge significance that we get, if nothing else, it's a heavy thing to bear for them. But he also said, take my yoke upon you. Another yokes are those things they would join two oxen together by this thing on their shoulders. Actually, I think you could just do it with one, but usually it was two, and connect a plow to it. And then they would, you know, do their work. But he said, take my yoke upon you, and learn from me. But he also said, my burden is easy. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. So at the same time, he's saying, take up the cross, or put this heavy yoke on you because you're going to be a workhorse. You're going to be a work animal. He's saying, but my yoke's easy and my burden is light. And that ties back to what you were saying, Penelope, about the practical, you know, this is God's job, not ours.
Yeah.
And so we'll let him do his job. And then that's much lighter to bear than my thinking I have to come up with a 12-point plan for the next however many years God gives me on earth.
I wouldn't mind that, though.
The 12-point plan?
Yeah.
I know.
guess I could go back to the laws, the 615.
Yep.
Maybe wouldn't work either.
And when they came to the disciples, so remember they went off again, just the few, Peter, James, and John went off with Jesus, the whole transfiguration scene. Now they're walking back, coming down from the mountain. They have this discussion about Elijah. And then when they came to the disciples, they saw a great crowd around them and scribes arguing with them. Shocking. And immediately all the crowd, when they saw him, were greatly amazed and ran up to him and greeted him. And he asked them, what are you arguing about with them? And someone from the crowd answered him, Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a spirit. I can't see this. That makes him mute. Got it. And whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they weren't able. And he answered them, O faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me. And they brought the boy to him, and when the spirit saw him, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked his father, how long has this been happening to him? And he said, from childhood. And it has often cast him into fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said, I believe, help my unbelief. Another of my favorite verses. And when Jesus saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, you mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. And after crying out and convulsing him terribly, it came out. And the boy was like a corpse, so that most of them said, he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had entered the house, his disciples asked him privately, why could we not cast it out? And he said to them, here we go, another thing where I'm not going to answer, I won't have answers for you. This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer. I don't know what that means. I kind of would assume the disciples prayed, but if we're going to stick with any kinds of themes that I've at least tried to point out, we're back to treating in the spiritual realm. We have been, right? The end, he's talking about the Messiah. It isn't an earthly revolution that's going to happen, and they're not going to take over. We have a transfiguration, which is decidedly not of this world. It's of the other world. He explains all this to him, and then we have another spiritual realm healing, right? He drives out a demon who is so bad that he tries to throw the kid into the fire. You know, it's pretty brutal. And this interesting exchange, very long exchange. Any thoughts about why that might be? I just think it's, it slows the action down. There are times, in a book where you have an extended, or in a movie where you have a scene where they're just eating dinner, to slow the action down a little bit. And here you have this interchange between the Father and Jesus about the Son. And he's asking questions, how long? And what does it do? And then he responds, if you can, anything's possible. All things are possible for one who believes. And then he yells, okay, I believe, and help my unbelief. What's that about? I believe, help my unbelief? Doesn't that sound a bit contradictory? Mm-hmm. What do you make of it?
Help me to continue believing.
Yeah, and fill in what's missing right now, too. Yeah. I believe.
You show me.
But, tomorrow, who knows? And there are parts of me that are still in doubt. Help me. I like this prayer because that's just what a gracious God we have that is good enough. I believe, help my unbelief. I often think how offended I'd be if someone said to me, I love you, help my not loving you. Help me because I don't love you. You'd be like, well, you need my help. But Jesus is gracious and heals him. And it's a big one. He's, this, major, what's that called? The fit, like an epileptic fit, seizure. And then he looks dead. Poor kid must have been exhausted with all this. And he takes him by the hand and he gets up. I think that's probably as good a place to stop as any, because we're now moving ahead to the conversations about his death. What's interesting is from the blind man, which I think fit in, this is in chapter 8, verse 22, and I think that fit in with what was happening, but I had said that was the first healing of a blind man that we'd had, which is momentous. It's something only God could do. From there on, we are marching toward the end. We have teachings along the way, healings along the way, transfigurations along the way, but the whole thing, the plot of the movie from here on is toward the cross. And so it's going to, or it'll inform everything we read from here on out. It's about the cross, the suffering. And they need a lot of help getting there because Peter was so upset by that, he took Jesus aside to rebuke him. You know, Jesus, you don't know what you're talking about here, but don't ixnay on the, crucifixion thing. But we can pick it up in verse 30 next week.